Doyen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he followed Threnix through the crowded streets of Velcor 9. The trading hub buzzed with activity. Aliens of every shape and size moved past them, speaking in languages that clicked, hummed, and whistled. Doyen hated crowds, but his business partner had insisted they come here today. "Why are we going to an auction?" Doyen asked for the third time. "We're cargo pilots, not collectors." Threnix's scales rippled with amusement. The Viscari turned his long neck to look back at Doyen. "Because, my human friend, sometimes the best cargo finds us. Trust me on this." The grand auction house stood tall in the center of the district. Its walls were made of some kind of crystal that reflected light in rainbow patterns. Inside, the main hall stretched out like a small stadium. Hundreds of beings filled the seats, all facing a raised platform at the center. Doyen and Threnix found seats near the back. The human noticed the tension in the air. Warriors from different clans sat separated by empty rows. Collectors clutched their datapads tightly. Mercenary captains whispered to their advisors. Whatever was being sold today, it mattered. A crystalline being floated onto the platform. Its body chimed softly with each movement. "Welcome, honored guests," it said, its voice echoing through translation devices. "Today we present something unique, something dangerous, something that has killed." The crowd went silent. "Recovered from the ruins of Sector 9, deep in the quarantined zones, we bring you the Crimson Lament." The auction master gestured, and a container rose from beneath the platform. Inside, protected by energy fields, lay a sword. Even from a distance, Doyen could see it was beautiful. The blade seemed to be made of dark red metal that shifted like liquid. Symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly. The hilt was wrapped in what looked like aged leather, but the material seemed too perfect, too preserved. 17 beings have attempted to claim this weapon from its vault. The auction master continued. All suffered severe burns. Our scientists believe the sword is sentient. It chooses its wielder, or perhaps it rejects all who are unworthy. A massive Kragoth warlord stood from his seat. His armor was thick and scarred from countless battles. "I will try," he announced. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. The auction master bowed. "Please approach." The Kragoth stomped down to the platform. Technicians deactivated the energy field around the container. The warlord reached out with one clawed hand, protected by heat-resistant gloves that could withstand plasma fire. The moment his fingers touched the hilt, flames erupted. Not normal fire, but something brighter, almost white. The Kragoth roared in pain and jerked his hand back. His glove was melted, smoking. The skin beneath was red and blistered. Medics rushed forward. The Kragoth waved them away, glaring at the sword. "Cursed thing," he muttered, returning to his seat. Perhaps a different approach, suggested a thin insectoid merchant. "I have a specialized drone. It uses energy shields and can withstand extreme temperatures." The auction master nodded. The merchant activated his drone, a small floating device covered in protective plating. It approached the sword carefully, extended a mechanical arm, gripped the hilt. The sword flared. The drone's shields flickered, failed. Within seconds, the metal began to glow red, then white. The drone dropped the sword and retreated, its arm half melted. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some people started to leave. Others argued in hushed voices. The sword remained on its platform, untouched, somehow both beautiful and terrible. "This is ridiculous," someone said loudly. Doyen realized he had spoken. Threnix turned to him, eyes wide. "What are you doing?" "It's just a sword," Doyen said, standing up. He didn't know why he felt so annoyed, or why his heart was beating faster, or why he felt drawn to that platform. "May I try?" The auction master looked at him with what might have been pity. "Human, many have tried. Species with natural resistance to heat, beings with advanced technology. All have failed. So one more won't hurt," Doyen said, walking down the stairs. Threnix called after him, but Doyen wasn't listening anymore. He reached the platform and stood before the sword. Up close, he could see the symbols more clearly. They weren't from any language he knew, yet something about them felt familiar. Like a song he'd heard in childhood but couldn't quite remember, he reached out. "Wait," the auction master said. "At least wear protective equipment." "It's fine," Doyen replied. His hand moved closer to the hilt. He expected heat, pain, something. Instead, when his fingers wrapped around the leather grip, warmth spread through his palm. Not burning warmth, but the kind you feel from holding a cup of tea on a cold morning. Comfortable. "Welcome." He lifted the sword. It was lighter than he expected, perfectly balanced. The blade hummed softly, and he felt something pulse through it. Like a heartbeat. Like the sword was alive and happy. Doyen smiled without meaning to. "She's just happy I'm back again," he said. The words came out naturally, as if he'd said them 1,000 times before. But he hadn't. He'd never seen this sword before in his life. Had he? The entire auction house was silent. Every being stared at him. At the sword that glowed gently in his hands, showing no flames, no violence. Just a soft, warm light. Threnix's jaw had literally dropped open. The auction master floated closer, its crystalline body ringing with shock. "How?" it whispered. I don't know," Doyen admitted. He looked down at the sword. The symbols on the blade were moving now, rearranging themselves. He could almost read them, almost understand. What did I mean by that? "Back again?" "You tell us, human," a voice said. Armed security officers were approaching the platform, along with beings wearing the insignia of the Galactic Antiquities Council. "Please don't make any sudden movements." Doyen held the sword loosely, not threatening. "I'm not trying to cause trouble." "Nevertheless," said one of the council members, a being with too many eyes and not enough face, "you have just done something impossible. That weapon has been studied for months. It has injured 37 researchers, yet you hold it as if it were made for you." "Maybe it was," Doyen said quietly. He ran his thumb along the hilt and the sword pulsed again. Warmth, recognition, something deeper than he could explain. A technician was scanning him with multiple devices. "Sir, you need to see this," she said to her superior. "The sword's energy signature is synchronizing with his biorhythm. They're linking somehow." Threnix finally made it to the platform. "Doyen, what's going on? How do you know this weapon?" "I don't," Doyen said, but even as he spoke, images flashed in his mind. Purple skies, a world he'd never seen, a woman's face fierce and beautiful smiling at him. A battle, a promise. "I don't," he repeated, less certain now. "But she knows me." The auction master looked at the council officials. They looked at each other. One of them spoke into a communication device. "Secure the area. Seal the building. We have a priority situation." "Am I under arrest?" Doyen asked. "That depends," the council official said. "Why don't you start by telling us who she is? And what you meant when you said you're back again?" Doyen looked at the sword in his hands. The blade reflected his face, and for just a moment he thought he saw someone else standing beside him in that reflection. A woman in armor with kind eyes and a warrior's stance. Then she was gone. "I wish I knew," he said softly. But deep down, in a place he couldn't quite reach, he felt like he did know. He'd known her once. Someone named. The name was right there, just out of reach. The sword pulsed again, warm and patient, as if saying, "You'll remember." Give it time. Around them, the auction house dissolved into controlled chaos. Security established a perimeter. Scientists set up scanning equipment. The crowd was being evacuated. And through it all, Doyen stood holding a sword that shouldn't exist, wielded by a man who shouldn't be able to touch it. But the sword disagreed. The sword knew exactly who he was, and soon he would too. The detention room was small but comfortable. Doyen sat on a bench, the sword lying across his lap. They'd tried to take it from him. When the first security officer reached for it, the blade had erupted in flames again. When Doyen held it, the flames disappeared instantly. So they'd let him keep it. But they'd locked him in this room with guards outside and cameras watching from every corner. Threnix had argued for an hour before they'd finally let him leave. "I'll find you a lawyer," his friend had promised. "A good one, the best. Just don't do anything stupid," Doyen had almost laughed. Too late for that. Now he sat alone with a weapon he didn't understand and memories that weren't his own. Every time he touched the sword, more images came. Brief flashes. A city with towers that reached into clouds. Training grounds where warriors practiced with weapons made of light. And always that woman's face. The door opened. A being entered, followed by several assistants carrying scanning equipment. The being was insectoid, with multiple limbs and eyes that reflected light like mirrors. "I am Quillix," it said through a translator. "Lead researcher for the Galactic Antiquities Council." "May I sit?" Doyen nodded. Quillix settled onto a seat across from him, folding its limbs carefully. "You've caused quite a disturbance, human. That sword has been one of our greatest mysteries. We've studied it for 8 months, run every test imaginable, and then you simply picked it up." "I didn't plan it," Doyen said. "I believe you." Quilix gestured, and one of its assistants placed a data pad on the table. Images appeared, hovering in the air. Scans of the sword from every angle. Look at this. These are quantum readings from the weapon. Do you know what quantum entanglement is? Not really, Doyen admitted. Simplified version. Particles that are connected across any distance. What affects one affects the other instantly. We found that this sword contains quantum-entangled biosignatures. Quilix's eyes focused on Doyen. Do you understand what that means? No. It means the sword contains preserved consciousness, a mind frozen in quantum state waiting. Quilix brought up another image. When you touched it, we detected synchronization. Your quantum signature matched the sword's perfectly. That's impossible unless you're the original bonded partner. Doyen stared at the data, not understanding half of it. But I've never seen this sword before. Your current body hasn't, Quilix agreed. But consciousness doesn't work the way we thought. Some new theories suggest that quantum patterns can persist across time. Reincarnation, some call it. Though that's not scientifically accurate. But the pattern of who you are, fundamentally, might have existed before. The sword grew warm against Doyen's leg. He looked down at it, running his hand along the flat of the blade. The symbols shifted again, forming patterns that almost made sense. You're saying I'm someone else, Doyen said slowly. Someone who owned this sword, possibly. Or someone who knew the person who became this sword. Quilix leaned forward. We want to help you understand this connection. Will you work with us? Doyen thought about it. He thought about going back to his simple life, hauling cargo between stations, pretending none of this happened. But the sword wouldn't let him. Every moment he held it, he felt more complete. Like he'd been missing something his entire life and only now realized what it was. What do you need me to do? He asked. Over the next 3 days, they ran tests. Doyen held the sword and let machines scan him. He described the images he saw. Quilix and the research team recorded everything, trying to make sense of it. On the third night, alone in his detention room, Doyen finally slept. He dreamed. In the dream, he stood on a planet under purple skies. 2 suns hung overhead, one gold and one red. Around him stretched a city of impossible beauty. Buildings that seemed grown rather than built. Bridges made of light connecting towers that touched the clouds. He wore armor. Light, flexible, but strong. A weapon hung at his side, not the sword, but something else. He was younger in this dream, stronger, different, but still himself. Minho, a voice called. He turned. A woman approached and his heart jumped. He knew her. He knew her laugh, her fighting style, the way she always checked her equipment twice before a mission. Her name was Jiwoo and she was his partner. No, more than that. She was his bonded. You're daydreaming again, she said, but she was smiling. She carried a sword, the same one that now lay in Doyen's room. But in this dream it was just metal and edge not yet awakened. Just thinking, he heard himself say. But it wasn't quite his voice. Deeper, with an accent he didn't recognize. Think while we move. The council wants us at the defense briefing. Jiwoo started walking and he followed. The dream shifted. Now they stood in a command center. Beings of different species surrounded a holographic display. In the center of the display, something dark pulsed. It looked like a hole in space, but alive. Hungry. The Ravager, someone said. It's consumed 3 systems in 2 months. Nothing stops it. Nothing even slows it. Then we find a way, Jiwoo said. Her voice was hard. The coalition didn't form just to watch the galaxy burn. The dream shifted again. Battle, chaos, energy weapons firing, ships exploding. And through it all, Minho and Jiwoo fought side by side. They moved like one person in 2 bodies, always knowing where the other was, what the other would do. He saw Jiwoo take a hit, saw her fall, ran to her side as the world burned around them. We stopped it, she whispered, blood on her lips. But not destroyed. Only sleeping. Don't talk, he said. Save your strength. No time. She grabbed his hand, pressed something into it. A small device. I'm not leaving you. Not really. Use this. I'll wait. I'll wait forever if I have to. Find me again. She closed his fingers around the device, then her eyes closed. He screamed her name. Doyen woke up screaming it too. Jiwoo! The guards burst in, weapons ready. They found him sitting up on the bench, the sword in his hands, tears on his face. The sword, he said. Her name is Jiwoo. When he spoke the name, the blade flared with golden light. So bright the guards had to look away, and in that light Doyen heard a voice. Faint, distant, but unmistakably real. Finally, the voice whispered. You remember, Quillix arrived within minutes. Doyen told the researcher everything. The dream. The memories that weren't his but were. The woman who became a sword to wait for him across thousands of years. Remarkable, Quillix said, recording everything. The device she gave you must have been a consciousness transfer unit. She uploaded her mind into the weapon. Preserved herself at the quantum level. Why? Doyen asked. Why not just die? Because she loved you, Quillix said simply. Love can make beings do impossible things. And apparently it can make quantum patterns persist across time itself. Doyen looked at the sword. At Jiwoo. Can she hear me? Try, Quillix suggested. He felt foolish, but he spoke anyway. Jiwoo, are you there? The sword warmed in his hands. The symbols glowed softly. Yes, something seemed to say. Not words, not exactly, but feeling. Recognition, joy. I'm sorry I forgot, Doyen said. The warmth increased like a gentle embrace. Not your fault. You came back. That's what matters. This is incredible, Quillix said. The quantum bond is strengthening. The more you remember, the more synchronized you become. The researcher brought up new images. And look at this. The sword is projecting something. Coordinates. A star map appeared in the air above the sword. One point glowed brighter than the others. That's in the dead zone, one of Quillix's assistants said. Sector 9, the quarantined area. It's where she came from, Doyen said, somehow knowing. Where we came from. The planet Ethermore. I know that name, Quillix said slowly. It appears in ancient records. A civilization that existed 10,000 years ago. Before current galactic society formed. They were wiped out by something. No one knows what. I know what, Doyen said. The memories were coming faster now, clearer. The Ravager. It destroyed everything, and you fought it? We fought it. The Coalition. Humans and dozens of other species working together. He stood up, the sword feeling like an extension of his arm now. We hurt it badly. Put it to sleep. But Jiwoo and we paid the price. Quillix's eyes reflected the sword's light. If the Ravager was put to sleep and this weapon is from that time, then it might still be there, Doyen finished. On Ethermore. Or near it. The room went silent. Everyone understood what that meant. If the Ravager still existed, if it woke up, entire systems could die. We have to go there, Doyen said. We have to find out. The Council will never approve it, Quillix said. The dead zone is quarantined for a reason. Nothing that goes in comes back out. Then I'll go anyway. Doyen lifted the sword. Jiwoo hummed in his grip, agreeing. She's been waiting 10,000 years. I'm not going to let her wait anymore. Quillix looked at him for a long moment. Then the researcher made a decision. I'll talk to the Council. If that thing is still out there, we need to know. And you're the only one who can navigate what's left of Ethermore. Will they listen? They'd better, Quillix said. Because you're going either way, aren't you? Doyen smiled. It was Minho's smile, confident and just a little reckless. You're learning. In his hands, Jiwoo's light grew brighter, and he felt something he hadn't felt in this life before. Purpose. Like he was finally doing what he was meant to do. Together again, the sword seemed to say. Just like before, Doyen agreed. The ship cut through space toward the dead zone. It was a Council research vessel equipped with the best sensors and shields available. Still, everyone on board knew they were heading somewhere dangerous. Doyen stood in the navigation room, Jiwoo strapped to his back. He'd gotten used to carrying her everywhere. When the sword was close, the memories came easier. He remembered more about Minho's life every day, about the Coalition, about the war that had ended their civilization. Approaching the boundary, the pilot announced. She was human like Doyen, with sharp eyes and steady hands. Her name was Mirai, and she'd studied ancient civilizations her whole career. When she learned about Ethermore, she'd volunteered immediately for the mission. Beside her sat Kyung-hee, the ship's engineer. She was brilliant with technology, able to fix or hack almost anything. Right now she looked nervous. Sensors are already acting strange, Kyung-hee said. The dead zone is interfering with our equipment. Thrinnik stood behind Doyen. His friend had refused to be left behind. Are you sure about this? The Veskari asked quietly. No, Doyen admitted. But we have to know what's out there. Quillix approached, multiple limbs carrying data pads and scanning devices. The quantum readings are increasing. The sword is responding to something. Doyen felt it too. Jiwoo was vibrating gently against his back. Not danger, but recognition. They were getting close to home. The ship crossed into the dead zone immediately. Alarms blared. The lights flickered. Kyung-hee's hands flew across her controls. Systems failing. Something is draining our power. It's the spatial anomalies, Mirai said, fighting with the navigation controls. They're everywhere. I can't plot a safe course. Doyen drew Jiwoo from her sheath. The moment he held her, the sword flared with light. A path appeared in his mind, clear as day. I can navigate. Jiwoo knows the way. That's impossible, Mirai said. No one's been here in thousands of years. She has, Doyen replied. He moved to stand beside the pilot. Listen to me. I'll tell you where to go. For the next hour, Doyen guided them through the maze of space. Left here, right there, slow down, speed up. Jiwoo showed him the path, and he translated it to Mirai. Somehow, impossibly, they threaded through dangers that would have destroyed them. Then they saw it. Ethermore. The planet was broken. Huge chunks of land floated in space, torn from the main body but held close by some remaining gravity. What remained of the world was scarred and burned. Cities that had once touched the sky were now ruins. Forests were ash. Oceans had boiled away, leaving dried basins behind. By the stars, Mirai whispered. What could do this? The Ravager, Doyen said. The memories were flooding back now, painful and clear. He saw Ethermore as it had been. Beautiful. Alive. Home. And he saw it die. They landed on one of the larger floating pieces. The ship touched down in what had once been a plaza. Statues lay broken around them. Buildings stood like hollow teeth against the purple sky. The team suited up and stepped outside. Gravity was weak but present. The air was thin but breathable with assistance. Around them, the ruins stretched endlessly. Mirai was already scanning everything. The architecture is incredible. Human designs, but blended with at least a dozen other species' styles. This was a true coalition. Everyone working together. Kyung-hee examined a fallen pillar. The technology level was far beyond ours. Look at this metal. It shouldn't still be intact after 10,000 years, but it's barely corroded. Doyun walked forward, Jiwoo in his hand. He knew where to go. His feet remembered these streets. That building had been a training hall. That plaza, a market. Over there he'd lived with Jiwoo in quarters that looked out over the city. This way, he said. They followed him through the ruins. Threnik stayed close, his weapon ready. The dead zone felt empty, but that didn't mean it was safe. They reached a massive structure built into the side of a cliff. The entrance was partially collapsed, but a way through remained. Ancient symbols covered the walls, the same ones that appeared on Jiwoo's blade. A temple? Quillix asked. Command center, Doyen corrected. The Coalition's headquarters. They entered carefully. Inside, emergency lights still glowed faintly, powered by technology that refused to die. Holographic displays flickered, showing star maps and battle plans from a war fought millennia ago. Mirai touched one of the displays, and it brightened. These systems are still active, incredible. She began recording everything, her eyes wide with excitement. Doyun walked deeper into the facility. Jiwoo guided him to a central chamber. In the middle of the room stood a crystalline obelisk, taller than any of them. It pulsed with the same light as the sword. What is this? Quillix asked. Memory Keeper, Doyen said. He approached the obelisk and pressed Jiwoo's blade against it. The crystal flared, light exploded outward, and suddenly they were all standing in the past. Holographic figures moved around them, so real they seemed solid. Doyen recognized himself younger, stronger, Minho in his prime, and beside him Jiwoo. Not the sword, but the woman. She was beautiful, with a warrior's build and eyes that missed nothing. The Ravager approaches, holographic Minho said. Around him, Coalition leaders from different species listened intently. It has consumed the outer colonies. 17 billion dead. At its current speed, it will reach Ethermore in 6 days. We have to evacuate, someone said. There's nowhere to run, holographic Jiwoo replied. It will follow. It will consume world after world until the galaxy is empty. We stop it here or we don't stop it at all. The scene shifted. Now they saw the battle. Ships by the thousands fighting against something that defied description. The Ravager was darkness given form, a void that ate light and matter. Where it passed, stars dimmed, planets crumbled, and nothing they threw at it seemed to matter. Then Minho and Jiwoo entered the fight. They flew a ship that pulsed with the same quantum energy as the sword. They dove into the Ravager's heart where no one else could survive. And they hurt it. They cut into its essence with weapons that severed reality itself. But the cost was terrible. Doyen watched his past self carry Jiwoo from the wreckage of their ship. He watched her dying, watched her use the last of her strength to transfer her consciousness into the weapon she'd always carried. "I'll wait for you," the holographic Jiwoo said. "Across all the stars, across all the years, until you come back to me." "I will," Minho promised.
"I'll find you."
"I swear," she smiled. Then the light left her eyes and she was gone. The sword blazed to life. The hologram faded. The team stood in silence. Mirai was crying. Kyung-hee looked away, uncomfortable with such raw emotion. Quillix's eyes reflected the fading light. "She waited 10,000 years, Threnix said quietly. "That's true love." Doyen felt the sword warm in his hand. "Yes," Jiwoo seemed to say. "And you came back, like you promised the Ravager," Quillix said. "What happened to it?" Doyen knew without looking. He could feel it now, a weight pressing down on the entire dead zone. "We hurt it badly. It went dormant, hiding to heal. The Coalition built a stasis field to keep it asleep." "Where?" Mirai asked. Doyen pointed deeper into the facility. "Below, in the containment level." They descended through corridors that had been sealed for millennia. Kyung-hee worked on locked doors, her tools barely able to interface with the ancient technology. Finally, they reached the lowest level. A massive chamber stretched before them. In the center, suspended in a field of blue energy, was darkness. Not empty darkness, but malevolent darkness. The Ravager imprisoned but not destroyed. Kyung-hee scanned the containment field. Her face went pale. "The power systems are failing. They've been running for 10,000 years with no maintenance. The field is at 17% strength. How long until it fails completely?" Quillix asked. 40 hours, Kyung-hee said. "Maybe less." Everyone looked at Doyen. He stared at the thing they'd fought so hard to stop. The thing that had killed Jiwoo and destroyed his entire civilization. "We have to destroy it," he said. "While it's still weak." "How?" Mirai asked. "If the Coalition couldn't kill it with all their resources, how can we?" Jiwoo pulsed in his hand. Images filled his mind, a weapon. The Coalition's final creation. Built to destroy the Ravager once and for all. But they'd never had a chance to use it. "There's a weapon here," Doyen said. "The Sundering Array. It was designed to kill the Ravager by severing it from reality completely. But it requires two bonded consciousnesses to fire. One to aim, one to power." He understood now why Jiwoo had waited. Why she'd become the sword. Not just to be with him, but because together, they could finish what they'd started. "Can you activate it?" Quillix asked. "I think so. But we need time to find it and power it up." "Then we'd better start now," Kyung-hee said. "Because that thing is waking up and we're standing right next to it." As if in response to her words, the darkness in the containment field shifted, pulsed. Something moved within it, something vast and hungry. The Ravager was stirring. Doyen gripped Jiwoo tighter. "Let's move. We're ending this. For good." The sword blazed with light and he felt Jiwoo's determination matching his own. Together again. One last battle just like before, but this time they would finish it. They split up to cover more ground. Kyung-hee worked on restoring power to the facility's main systems. Mirai and Quillix searched the archives for information about the Sundering Array. Threnix stood guard, his weapon ready, watching the containment field for any change. Doyen moved through the facility with Jiwoo leading the way. The sword pulled him toward the armory level, where the Coalition had stored their most powerful weapons. Each step brought more memories. He'd walked these halls before. Trained here, prepared for the final battle here. The armory doors were sealed tight. Doyen placed his hand on the scanner and Jiwoo against the door. The ancient systems recognized them. The door hissed open for the first time in 10,000 years. Inside, weapons of every type lined the walls. Energy rifles that could punch through ship hulls. Blades that vibrated at frequencies that cut through any armor. Shields that bent light itself. All useless now, their power cells dead. But at the far end of the room, something still glowed. The Sundering Array looked like a combination of a weapon and a musical instrument. Crystalline tubes connected to a central core. Energy pathways traced along its surface. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Doyen approached it carefully. The moment he touched it, knowledge flooded his mind. How to activate it, how to aim it, how to fire it, and the cost. "Found it," he said into his communicator. "Good," Kyung-hee replied. "Because we have a problem. The containment field just dropped to 10%. Something is draining the power faster." "What?" Doyen asked. I found scavenger drones, Threnix said. Small ones hidden in the walls. They're siphoning energy from the main systems. Quilix's voice crackled over the comm. They must be remnants of the Ravager's forces. Programmed to free their master by slowly draining the prison. How many? Dorian asked. At least 50, Threnix said. And they're getting aggressive. An explosion echoed through the facility. Dorian ran back toward the containment chamber, carrying the Sundering Array's control module. Jiwoo blazed in his other hand. He arrived to find chaos. Small drones, each the size of a human head, swarmed through the chamber. They weren't armed, but they didn't need to be. They attached themselves to the power conduits and drained them dry. Threnix fired at them, his energy weapon taking down 2, then 3. But more kept coming. They're everywhere, Kyung-hee shouted. She swung a wrench at a drone that got too close, smashing it against a wall. Dorian didn't think. He just moved. Jiwoo sang in his hand as he cut through drone after drone. The sword didn't just slice metal. It severed the connection between the drones and whatever signal controlled them. Each strike took down 3 or 4 at once. He moved faster than he should have been able to. His body remembered how to fight like Minho had. Every motion was efficient, precise, deadly. Around him, drones fell like rain. Where did you learn to fight like that? Mirai asked, staring at him. I didn't, Dorian said, cutting down another drone. He did, Minho, and he's remembering through me. It took 10 minutes to clear the chamber. When the last drone sparked and died, Dorian stood breathing hard. Jiwoo glowed in his hand, warm and satisfied. The containment field is at 5%, Kyung-hee said, checking her scanner. We have maybe 20 hours left. Then we set up the array now, Dorian said. They worked through the night. Kyung-hee helped Dorian install the array's components around the containment field. Mirai studied the ancient manuals, translating the technical specifications. Quilix monitored the Ravager, watching for any sign of awakening. As Dorian worked, Jiwoo taught him things he'd never known. How to channel quantum energy, how to link his mind with the weapon systems, how to see not just with his eyes but with the sword's senses. You're glowing, Threnix said, watching him connect another power conduit. Dorian looked down at his hands. His friend was right. A faint blue light shimmered around his skin. Side effect of bonding with Jiwoo. The more we synchronize, the more her energy affects me. Is it dangerous? Probably, Dorian admitted. But necessary. Hours passed. The array slowly came online, piece by piece. As it powered up, Dorian understood more about how it worked. The weapon didn't destroy the Ravager directly. Instead, it would sever the creature's connection to this dimension. Erase it from reality, remove it from existence as if it had never been. But firing it required 2 consciousnesses to merge completely. One would become the targeting system, calculating the exact quantum frequency needed. The other would provide the power, channeling enough energy to tear a hole in reality itself. Both consciousnesses would be uploaded into the array. Both would be dispersed when it fired. Both would die. There has to be another way, Mirai said when Dorian explained this to the team. There isn't, Dorian replied. He'd checked Minho's memories 3 times. The Ravager exists partially outside normal space. To kill it, we have to meet it on that level, and that means sacrificing whoever fires the weapon. So we don't fire it, Kyung-hee said. We evacuate. Warn the council. Let them send a fleet. The Ravager will be free in less than 20 hours, Quilix said. Even if we left now, no fleet could arrive in time. And once it's free, it will be at full strength. The galaxy won't survive. Silence fell over the group. I'll do it, Dorian said quietly. Jiwoo and I. It's what we were supposed to do 10,000 years ago. Jiwoo pulsed in his hand. Agreement. Readiness. But also sadness. You just found each other again, Mirai said. You can't. We have to. Dorian interrupted gently. This is why she waited. Why she became the sword. Not just to be with me, but to finish this together. Threnix looked away. There must be another option. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared. The containment field flickered. In the center of the chamber, the darkness writhed. It's waking up early, Kyung-hee shouted. The field is failing. The Ravager pulsed. Tendrils of shadow reached out, testing the barriers. Where they touched the energy field, the blue light dimmed. How long? Dorian asked. Minutes, Quilix said. Maybe less. Dorian made his decision. He ran to the array's central console and placed Jiwoo on the control surface. The sword melded with the machine, becoming part of it. What are you doing? Mirai asked. Getting ready, Doyen said. He placed his hands on the interface. Everyone get to the ship. Get as far away as you can. We're not leaving you, Threnix said. Yes, you are. Doyen looked at his friend. Tell people what happened here. Tell them about the Coalition, about how different species work together to protect the galaxy. That story needs to be remembered. Mirai was recording everything. We will, I promise, Gwengood. Doyen turned back to the array and I now go. The containment field dropped to 1%. The Ravager pushed against it harder and harder. Cracks appeared in the energy barrier. The team ran. Doyen heard their footsteps fading, heard them arguing about leaving him behind, heard Threnix shouting his name. But they were good people. They would survive. They would tell the story. The containment field shattered. The Ravager exploded outward, a wave of pure darkness that consumed everything it touched. The walls aged 10,000 years in seconds. Equipment rusted and crumbled. The ground itself turned to dust. Doyen stood at the center of it all, protected by Jiwoo's light. The sword blazed like a star, holding back the darkness. The Ravager noticed him. It coiled around the chamber, taking shape. Not a physical form, but the suggestion of one. Something huge. Something ancient. Something that had been eating galaxies since before humanity learned to make fire. It spoke without words, directly into his mind. Small thing. Weak thing. You hurt me once. You will die for that. I hurt you twice, Doyen said. And I'm about to make it permanent. He merged his consciousness with Jiwoo's. For a moment, they were separate beings. Two people who loved each other across impossible time. Then the boundaries dissolved. They became one. Memories flooded between them. He saw his life as Doyen. She saw her death as Jiwoo. They shared everything, all the pain and joy and fear and hope. And through it all, one truth burned brighter than anything else. They loved each other. Had always loved each other. Would always love each other. Together, they were unstoppable. The Ravager attacked. Tendrils of darkness lashed out, trying to tear them apart. But Doyen moved like liquid, Jiwoo extending from his hand like an extension of his arm. Every cut severed the creature's connection to reality. Every strike weakened it, but the Ravager was strong. It had fed on civilizations. It had consumed stars. Two beings, no matter how bonded, couldn't stand against it for long. The array charged behind them, building toward firing threshold. 90%, 95, 98. The Ravager realized what they were doing. It screamed, a sound that existed beyond hearing. It threw everything at them, trying to stop them, trying to destroy the array. Doyen held his ground. Jiwoo blazed in his hand, protecting him, loving him, fighting beside him one last time. The array reached 100%. Ready? Doyen asked. Always, Jiwoo replied. Together they reached for the firing mechanism, and the galaxy held its breath. Time slowed. Doyen's hand moved toward the firing mechanism, but the Ravager was faster. A tendril of darkness wrapped around his arm, burning cold. He felt it trying to drain him, to consume him like it had consumed billions of others. But Jiwoo wouldn't let it. The sword flared, and the tendril recoiled. Together, Doyen and Jiwoo moved as one being. They didn't think about fighting anymore. They just knew. Every motion was perfect. Every strike found its target. They danced. That's what it looked like to anyone watching. A warrior and his blade moving through impossible patterns, cutting through darkness that tried to swallow them. It was beautiful and terrible. It was the last battle of the last coalition warriors, 10,000 years after their war had ended. The Ravager screamed again. It understood now. These weren't just two beings fighting. They were bonded at the quantum level. Their consciousnesses were entangled across time and death itself. That kind of connection created power that even the Ravager couldn't fully comprehend. Love, it turned out, was a weapon. Doyen spun, and Jiwoo cut through 3 tendrils at once. He felt her joy in the fight, her fierce determination. He felt her love for him, steady and unbreakable even after waiting for millennia. And she felt his love for her. The emptiness he'd carried his entire life, not knowing what was missing. The completeness he felt now that they were together again. I missed you, he said. I know, she replied. I felt it. Every lifetime you lived without me. Every time you felt incomplete and didn't know why. They fought closer to the array. The weapon was ready. It just needed them to activate it. But that meant uploading their consciousnesses. Becoming part of the machine. Dispersing themselves across quantum space to fire a single shot. It meant ending. Truly ending. No more waiting. No more reincarnation. Just nothing. Are you afraid? Doyen asked. Yes, Jiwoo admitted. But not of ending. I'm afraid of losing you again. We won't be lost, Doyen said. He didn't know how he knew this, but he did. Quantum patterns don't just disappear. They transform. We'll become something else. Together. The Ravager sensed their hesitation. It gathered itself, pulling all its scattered pieces together. The darkness condensed, became more solid, more real. It was preparing for one final attack. Now or never, Jiwoo said. Together, Doyen replied. They reached for the array's interface, but the Ravager was faster. It slammed into them with the force of a collapsing star. Doyen flew backward, losing his grip on Jiwoo. The sword spun through the air, the Ravager coiled around Doyen, crushing him. Cold burned through his body. He felt it starting to consume him, to drain away everything he was. Then Jiwoo was there. The sword flew back to his hand, pulled by their bond. The moment he gripped the hilt, power surged through him. Not just Jiwoo's power, but his own. Minho's power. The power of a warrior who had fought and died to protect the galaxy. He pushed back. The Ravager's grip loosened. Doyen stood, Jiwoo blazing in his hand like a star given form. Around him, quantum energy crackled. He was glowing now, bright enough to hurt to look at. You took everything from us, Doyen said. His voice was his own, but also Minho's, past and present speaking together. You destroyed our civilization. You killed the woman I loved. You've consumed billions of innocent lives. The Ravager laughed, a sound like reality breaking. And I will consume billions more. I am eternal. I am inevitable. You are nothing. I'm not nothing, Doyen said. I'm human. And humans don't give up. We don't surrender. And we never ever abandon the ones we love. He ran toward the Ravager. Jiwoo sang in his hand. They cut deep, deeper than before. They found the creature's core, the dark heart where all its stolen energy gathered. And they struck. The Ravager screamed. Real pain this time. It tried to regenerate, but Jiwoo's quantum edge prevented it. The wound stayed open. Energy bled out like blood. Doyen didn't stop. He struck again and again. Each cut weakened the creature. Each strike brought them closer to victory. But the Ravager was ancient and cunning. It changed tactics. Instead of trying to consume Doyen, it reached past him. Toward the array. Toward the weapon that could destroy it. Tendrils of darkness wrapped around the machine. It began to crush the delicate components, to tear apart the weapon before it could be used. No, Doyen shouted. He ran back to the array, but he was too slow. The Ravager was dismantling it piece by piece. In seconds it would be destroyed. Their only weapon would be gone. Then Jiwoo spoke. There's another way. Doyen understood instantly. The array was just a machine to focus and direct quantum energy. But they didn't need the machine. They were already quantum entangled. They were already bonded. They could become the weapon themselves. It will destroy us, Doyen said. I know, Jiwoo replied. But we'll save everyone else. And that's what we do. It's who we are. Doyen looked at the sword in his hand. At the weapon that was also the woman he loved. They'd found each other again across 10,000 years, and now they would end together by choice to protect a galaxy that would never even know their names. It was enough. I love you, he said. I love you too, she replied. Now and always. They merged completely. Not just their minds, but their quantum signatures. They became a single consciousness, a single pattern of energy. Doyen and Jiwoo ceased to exist as separate beings. And in their place, something new was born. The being that was them both raised the sword. Energy gathered around it, pulled from the quantum substrate of reality itself. The Ravager felt it happening and tried to escape. But it was too late. The being struck. Not a physical blow, but a quantum one. They severed the Ravager's connection to this dimension, cut it away from reality like a surgeon removing a tumor. The creature screamed, reaching out with countless tendrils trying to hold on to existence. But the being that was Doyen and Jiwoo was stronger. They pushed harder. They cut deeper. And with a sound like thunder in reverse, the Ravager was gone. Not dead because it had never been truly alive. Just erased. Removed from the universe as if it had never existed. The facility shook. Without the Ravager's presence, the quantum anomalies began to collapse. The floating pieces of Ethermore started to drift apart. Everything the Ravager had touched was finally being released. The being stood alone in the chamber. It felt itself beginning to disperse. The amount of energy they'd used was too much. They couldn't hold together anymore. But that was okay. They'd won. The galaxy was safe, and they'd done it together. As their consciousness began to fade, they felt no fear. Only peace, only love, only the warmth of knowing that they'd mattered. That their sacrifice meant something. The last thing they felt was each other. Not separate anymore, but one. Complete. And then they were gone. The sword fell to the ground, silent and dark. Outside the facility, Threnix and the others felt the ground shake. They'd made it to their ship and were preparing to launch. But something made them wait. Made them look back. They saw light explode from the facility. Not destructive light, but gentle, like a sunrise. It spread across Ethermore, touching every ruin, every broken piece. And where it touched, things seemed less broken. Not repaired, but peaceful. Finally at rest. Did they do it? Kyung-hee asked. Mireille checked her scanners. The quantum readings are gone. The Ravager it's just gone. They actually did it. Where's Doyun? Threnix asked. No one answered. They all knew. They'd felt it when the light faded. That moment when something precious left the universe forever. We have to go back, Threnix said. We have to. The facility is collapsing, Quillix said gently. And Ethermore is breaking apart. If we don't leave now, we never will. Threnix wanted to argue. But he knew Quillix was right. Slowly, reluctantly, they lifted off. The ship carried them away from the dead zone, back toward living space. Behind them, Ethermore shattered completely. The floating pieces drifted apart, finally released from the gravity that had held them. The ruins of the Coalition were gone forever, but not forgotten. 3 months later, Mireille stood in the council chambers, presenting her findings. The galaxy's leaders listened as she told them about Ethermore, about the Coalition, about the war fought 10,000 years ago to save everyone. She told them about Doyun and Jiwoo, about a love that transcended death itself. About a sacrifice made without hesitation. They saved us all, she concluded, and no one will ever know their names. But I think they would have been okay with that. The council voted unanimously to create a memorial, a monument to the Coalition and to the 2 warriors who had ended a threat the galaxy never knew existed. Mireille was put in charge of the project. She worked on it for a year, designing something worthy of their memory. Finally, it was complete. The memorial stood in the heart of the galactic capital, a statue of 2 figures, man and woman, standing back to back. Between them, a sword pointed skyward. At the base, words were carved in 100 languages, for those who wait, for those who return, for those who love beyond ending. On the day of the unveiling, thousands attended. Threnix was there, of course. Kyung-hee had brought her entire family. Quillix represented the research division, and Mireille stood at the front, looking up at the statue she'd designed. That night, after everyone had left, she returned to the memorial alone. She carried something wrapped in cloth. The sword. The real one. She'd kept it safe all this time, studying it, hoping it might activate again.